Hello, Sven, and welcome to Artificially Intelligent Marketing. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you on. We connected on LinkedIn after you introduced us to your app, which is, am I pronouncing it right? Contea.ai, or have I got that wrong? Is it the British love of a cup of tea that is throwing me off there?
It definitely is. We're thinking about that quite a lot. So obviously we're both Germans, right? And we were searching for a name, like, how are we going to name this? And we came up with the name Contea, which is like kind of a mixture between content and EA, which is like in our understanding, like emotional intelligence or like artificial intelligence, like a mixture of those two. So like if we throw all of those three things together, we come up with the name Contea. But we're thinking like, but how is a British speaker going to, or like an English speaker going to pronounce this? And we didn't know, but now I know. I actually pronounce it how? Conti?
So I did say Conti. I actually think it would be
Love
Contia,
it.
yeah. But Conti was the first thing that I saw when I logged into the system and you sent me the link. So one of the questions I had for you was, where did the name come from? So that makes a great deal of sense. I like the emotional intelligence side of that. We can dig into that in a moment. But before we get into that, tell us about the tool and what it does.
First, I might start by saying that both Nico, my co-founder, and I, we are both copywriters. So we earn our bread, our money by kind of transporting ideas from people into written text. And when this whole ChatGPT thing went down, like that was like a big move in going through the copywriting scenes. Like everybody was like running around like headless chicken, right? Like, oh my God, we're all going to be substituted by this AI thing, whatnot. So we rather took a different approach, and we were thinking, all right, so you can't stop this avalanche of technological advancements. So the only thing you can do is try to use it. So we started experimenting of how to use it to become better copywriters. And this is how we eventually ended up with Contea. So what Contea does is it helps you to create LinkedIn content in up to 10 times of the speed of like just writing it. And how it works is this. Contea creates customized questions for you. So for example, you saw you already logged in and you tried it out. It generated questions about your specific business. Those questions then you get into your interface, and you can answer them through voicemail. Because in our experience, talking about something is pretty easy, but writing it down, this is the difficult part. And this is exactly the part that Contea takes over. So you talk something into it, you give it your input, and then our tool takes your input and puts it into perfectly coherent and concise LinkedIn posts, which doesn't only have your expertise in it, but, and more importantly, your tonality. So your specific words. Because many people now use ChatGPT to create LinkedIn content, but this content is just very generic and doesn't sound like you at all. It doesn't have your words, it doesn't have your expertise. And with Contea, we can help you to create content which actually sounds like you and transports your expertise.
Yeah, I must say I tried the platform, and that was one of the things that really stood out for me was, first of all, using it was very, very simple. You know, you hit record and then you start talking. Mm-hmm. But in the output that it gave me, it was very reflective of the language that I use, not kind of verbatim, because in the way that I was, the kind of chain of thought when you're talking is a bit all over the place, maybe a bit rambling. It tidied it up, but it kept the prescient points. And I really like that. So was it your experience as a copywriter through doing the kind of background research when you work with a client, you have to sit down, you interview them, you dig into that? Was that what kind of led you down this path then? Just thinking about that workflow?
100%. So as a copywriter, what we try to do is we want to sound like the clients, but better. This is basically what describes our job. And there are many artificial intelligence tools out there, but they never really did this job. And I think what qualified us to do so, to create a tool which does, as you said, like kind of reflect your tonality, is that we understand the foundations of copywriting, and we were able to implement those foundations of copywriting through our prompts. So what you can't see, obviously, because it's all in the back ends, and it's kind of like we try to keep it secret, right? Are our prompts, because they're very complex, and it's not just like write a LinkedIn post based on this transcripts. They are huge. Those are huge prompts where we try to put all of our expertise of copywriting into them. Like, for example, write it concise, but also try to keep it colloquial, and so on and so on. So yeah, I think, like, to come back to your question, if this is what, like, this is basically what we try to do, like to take our job, what we do as copywriters, like trying to understand who the person is we're writing for. We tried our best to put this into tool, which of course we didn't succeed completely. So like it sounds like you, but not 100%. It gets you 80% of the way, but the last 20% you still have to edit the post a little bit. You have to make it a little bit more personal, but we're trying to get as close to the 100% authenticity as possible.
Yeah, and I think that's general good advice for anyone using any generative AI tool at the moment, right? They take you so far, but they're never going to get you wholly over the line. You still need human in the loop, and that's something we talk about on the show quite
100%.
a lot. This isn't something that we're fully outsourcing. So from a marketing perspective, then, what are the marketing use cases? What could our listeners do with Contea that would help them in their marketing role?
So this is a very interesting question, because I can't give you a clear answer on that, because we're still figuring that out, or rather our customers. So the use case that we had in mind is for like small business owners, like me, for example, or like somebody who has like some kind of consulting, whatever. He doesn't have a big team, and that person wants to create awareness on LinkedIn, wants to create LinkedIn posts, but is struggling with it because, first of all, you have to come up with the ideas, at least 3 or 4 a week, and then you have to find the time to write them, and this is very difficult. So our use case that we had in mind is that those small business owners, they get the tool, they get their questions, they reply them through voicemail, and within 5 minutes, they have the post ready for a week. So this was our use case, and this is what we thought that people can, and what people actually can do with it. Now, however, we get a lot of messages from agency owners or other copywriters who say, look, I want to use this tool to scale my own work with my own clients. So what we're doing right now is we're building kind of like a surface level interface, like a kind of a login for the agencies, where they have all of their clients in one interface. So this way, basically, agencies can use our tool to automatize most of their work, which is their clients get automatic questions. They get a first draft. As you said, like it's 80% of the way it gets you there. But then those agencies, they can still go into those generated posts of the clients, fit a little bit of them, change them a little bit to make them 100% authentic, and then post them. So this is basically the second use case we're now working on. So either you are a small business owner and you want to create LinkedIn content for yourself, or you are an agency and you want to use it to scale your work, basically.
Yeah, I love that second use case. The agency model, having worked agency side and consulted on many B2B clients, quite technical, working with clients that are in the manufacturing and engineering space. I don't have that expertise, but I know the questions to ask, so I can sit down, record an interview with them, hand that transcript over to a copywriter and get them to extract the detail. Having that in an interface is lovely, which kind of takes me to one of the big talking points that we have regularly on the podcast, which is AI, and particularly generative AI, and these models are now being baked into all of the tools that we use everywhere. And the real difference maker for me in terms of what makes a tool really excel or gives a tool maybe the best chance of surviving and thriving in the kind of tech startup SaaS world is UX. If you can give somebody that user experience, which, you know, there were so many copywriting tools over the past couple of years since GPT-3 came out and made API access available. Many companies launched, some of them have reached unicorn status with basically putting a front end on to GPT-3 and DaVinci, right? That's kind of what they've done. That's not going to sustain, right? ChatGPT has pulled the rug from under them. Like, you can go into ChatGPT and say, write me a meta description, and it will write you a meta description. What you've done is interesting, because you've taken multiple different AI models and technologies and modalities. So you've taken audio as well, and put this into a very simple, easy to use workflow. Just tell us a bit about without giving away the secret sauce. I'm sure you're not going to tell us what prompt you're using and what have you. Tell us a bit about the AI technologies that you're using and how you've kind of built that stack.
This is very interesting, and it's like a prejudice we get quite a lot. So what you're basically doing is you're just using GPT-4 to write some copies. The interesting thing is, so first we try to build that whole thing no code, because we're both no developers. So I'm a copywriter 100%. I know about words, but I have no idea about numbers. Like, this is not my expertise at all. However, my co-founder Nico, luckily he worked as a web developer, so he has some ideas about like front-end development and stuff. But we tried to put that whole thing, like, set it up no code, which in the beginning we did through a 5 or 6 step process on Zapier, which is basically you have a recorder that gets recorded, that goes to a transcription tool, which we changed by now to Whisper. We'll probably get into that later. And then basically goes to OpenAI, like GPT-4 integration, and it writes the post. By now, that whole process is not on Zapier anymore, but on N8N, which is like an equivalent, but it gives us more variables. Like, you can actually code in the tool, so you have way more possibilities of integrations. And the whole step, which you don't see, is like from hitting record to your finished posts, is a 50-step process which runs through in the backends. And OpenAI are only 2 of them. So like the whole process now is huge. And even for me, like, it's so hard kind of like to figure something out. Like, I'm just asking like a voice into Nico, like, yeah, I just saw there's another step. Like, what the fuck is this actually doing? And he has to like kind of go into detail, and I have no idea what he's talking about. But basically, most of the functionalities right now are all like kind of on own servers. For example, we try to integrate Whisper's AI into N8N and Zapier. And I know that you talked about it in previous episodes, but we couldn't get it running. It didn't work. We couldn't integrate the API. Maybe there was like a bug in the beginning and that was possible. But basically all of those integrations, have to run over an own server. So basically we have like the N8N process, but the recorder, for example, is an own code solution. That recorder then sends an own, encodes all the information to the API of Whisper. That transcription then goes to Airtable, which is basically equivalent to Excel, right? Where all our data is stored. And then it goes back to OpenAI's GPT-4 to write the whole thing. But yeah, like basically it's like a huge process right now.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, because me and Paul have both played with our own zaps using Whisper and recording an MP3 file on your phone, and it drops it into Google Drive, and then it turns it into it. And I think what you've done in terms, that 50-step process and the layering in of the copywriting expertise is, that's ultimately that's the secret sauce, isn't it? Like that's where the magic happens. So where do you see this space evolving? What's kind of next? How reliant are you on new models? Are you interested to see where OpenAI goes with, you mentioned Whisper, that's clearly one that you're using. Are you looking at alternatives? Are you finding that reliable?
So first of all, regarding Whisper, first we used other transcription modules. And the good thing about our tool is if we want to change from one integration to another one, the only thing we have to do is change the API. So for example, if we decide that the solution from Bing now soon will be better than ChatGPT or like GPT-4, this is one click to change for us. So we tried this out. It's not even close. So GPT-4 still is like above all of them, like far ahead. But we very quickly can change them to other solutions. So how do I see this evolving? Do you mean like with the technologies behind, or you mean the whole copywriting space?
Well, I guess either or. The copywriting space is one I think listeners will be interested in from a from a marketing perspective. This, how much of this is truly going to disrupt copywriters? You have that experience yourself. You have the industry expertise. What do you think copywriters should be thinking right now?
So, as a roller coaster ride. So when GPT got launched, everybody was going crazy, was going nuts. Like some were saying, okay, this is the Armageddon, this is the end of copywriting. Others said, like, oh, this is fabulous. We're going to create 10 posts in 5 minutes. And I think this very quickly cooled down and realization kind of settled in, like, all right, this is not going to substitute copywriting soon because it's unpersonal, it's generic. So I think most copywriters already realize that, but you can't outsource human copywriting just yet. So my advice here for copywriters is don't rely on GPT to write some articles, because first of all, they're going to be super generic. This won't give you any traction, any expertise, any thought leadership on LinkedIn. This won't build trust with the target audience, first of all. And second of all, going forward, I'm very sure, if they don't already do that LinkedIn, the algorithm is going to punish you for it. So we already know that it is possible to track tools, to track copies which were generated through AI. Right? There are already like open source websites where you just like you copy paste one post inside, so like tell me the chance that this was created by a human being or an AI, and it's very, very accurate. We tried it out. We created some posts on ChatGPT. We put it into that tool. It gave us a 99% chance that this was created by ChatGPT. And I'm very sure LinkedIn is going to implement it at one point because they have an interest of keeping their feed interesting. And GPT content is not interesting. It's generic. So there's going to like just like splash. Like it's going to be like boring to be on LinkedIn because everybody's now creating 10 content pieces a day. So I'm very sure LinkedIn is going to find a way to stop this from happening. So relying on GPT, I think, is not smart for copywriters to do. What they can do is to make their work easier. For example, what I do with my clients, I get a transcription from a client and I put that in ChatGPT and tell me what this post is about. What is the key message here? So this helps me to write a copy. But to actually write the copies, I would not advise to use ChatGPT. So this is part number one of the answer. Don't rely on it, but use it. Because if you don't start now experimenting with it and finding use cases for yourself and how to use it to become better and quicker, others will do so. And in the end, they will do the same work than you do, but in 10 times the speed. So they also are able to do it like in 1/10 of the pricing. And then you are in big trouble. So I think those are the two things you have to be aware of. Don't rely on it, because LinkedIn very sure at one point will integrate something like that it will filter out and punish your posts, which are generic ChatGPT posts. But you have to stay on track. Otherwise, you're really going to be in trouble.
No, I think they're good tips. On the AI detection, there was an interesting article recently about OpenAI's own detection tool, and it's about 26% accurate.
Is it?
Yeah, so the AI, even the open source ones, they throw out too many false positives and false negatives. So they miss too many and they tag too many as being AI generated when they're not, and on the flip side, they miss too many for them to be reliable. So when I've tried them, similarly, I've had experiences where I've put AI copy in and it said 99% definite. But actually, when you roll that out at scale, they're too unreliable. You can't actually trust them. They're actually quite bad. So I think we're safe from that perspective for the time being. But I mean, ultimately, you know, this is going to be a big problem for the likes of anyone training a large language model, because soon they're going to be training on content written by large language models, and they're going to start cannibalizing their own content. So yeah, I think they have to be aware of it, and they're going to have to start thinking about, well, I say start thinking, they're well ahead of the thinking on this, but finding a solution to identify it is going to be interesting. I know they tried the watermarking system as well, and apparently if you watermark the text, basically minor edits will just get rid of the watermark completely. So
which is also what we realized with Contea. Like, it's very interesting what you just said. I didn't know that. Like, we just tracked it always and said it's like 90%, 99% certainty that it was generated by AI. When we did that with Contea articles, it gave us like a 5% rating on it. So like I said, like, no, that was written by humans, just because like probably there were some words which were in those copies because they are coming from transcripts, which kind of got rid of that watermark already. So yeah, that's very easy to undergo, for sure.
So about time to wrap it up. Where can people go to sign up? The product's still in beta, isn't it?
It is still in beta, but now we rolled it out just today. We kind of open it now for everybody for the open market. So it's very easy to find. You just have to go to get.contea.ai, Contea with EA in the end. And there you can sign up. It's very easy. And this whole thing is a beta version, so everything works already. This is 100% working product. But like every 2 weeks, we come up with a new functionality, or we tweak a little bit to make it a little bit better. So there are constant changes going to happen over the next weeks and months, for sure.
Great. And is that available with a 1 month trial? What's the pricing of it?
This is a good question. We thought about providing a free trial, and we consciously decided not to do it. Because of AI tools, the problem is that there are like so many AI tools right now. Like, you could try another different AI tool every single day. And we kind of wanted to avoid getting a lot of clients who just use it out of pure interest, like, oh, let's check this out, what this is doing. But we really want to filter out, like, the people we want are really people who see the benefit of it before using it. So there is no free trial. It is 75 euros, dollar, whatever the conversion is the same, a month. However, there is a 100% money back guarantee. So after 1 month, you use it and you say, like, look, this is not doing what it is supposed to do. It didn't deliver. Then you just have to contact us in support, and you get the money back instantly.
Fantastic. Very generous. Well, thank you for joining us on the podcast this week. And we look forward to getting hands-on with the tool in the future.